Hi, Stephen here for the Idiot Quilter, and here's another interview in my series of interviews with subscribers. Enjoy! Great. All right. So this week on the Idiot Quilter Presents, I have someone from all the way down under, Kendall Taylor. And I am saying your name right, I assume.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
not a hard one. And yes, so as I said, you're from down under, you're in Australia. So it's very early for me and it's much later for you. You're moving into Sunday, actually. And I'm just, or Saturday.
No, Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday. We're just starting Friday here. So
Yep.
anyways, so where are you located in Australia approximately?
In Melbourne. So right down the bottom, right to the south.
Yep, I have been
So,
to Melbourne a couple of times.
yeah, the only place further away is Tasmania.
And I've been there too. But yeah, Melbourne's a really nice city. In fact, I think we prefer Melbourne over Sydney.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, everybody thinks of Australia, think Sydney, Opera House, and they forget there's a whole lot more country out there. In fact, it's
Yeah.
amazing how big Australia really is because, we see it on a map and it looks like a big island.
Yep.
And it is the size of the United States.
Yep.
So, like,
But we all live out on the edge.
yeah, everybody lives on the edge. I know I've been around to all the edges, but yeah, but it's a fascinating country and I absolutely love it. And I do love the fabrics that come out of Australia, the indigenous designs. When I was there last, I bought a lot of those
Yep.
as well. So let's get right into it then. So how long have you been quilting?
Quilting in and of itself only since about 2019.
Oh, okay. So you're relatively new to it, like I was. I
Yep.
started about 2017 or something like that. But you said quilting. So you been sewing a lot longer?
Yeah. Prior to that, I used to do costumes for stage,
Ah, okay.
and I specialized in corseting the male form,
Ah, okay. That's
which is
interesting.
Yeah, which is very different to like female corsetry because
Yeah.
extra bones and stuff. So basically, I used to dress drag queens.
Yeah. Well, somebody has to, because some of those poor girls just don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, and but I also did like for theater, like
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, drag queen is a form of theater too, as well.
yeah,
But
and my last big project in actual like apparel was 2003,
right.
which was my sister's wedding.
Oh, okay. Did you make her
So I did,
dress?
yeah, did all the dresses for her,
Oh, wow.
and then stepped away from it all because I got too busy.
Well, yeah, it happens. Yes, that's true.
Yeah,
But that's a big undertaking, to dress a wedding party. Um,
yeah.
that so you must be very, very skillful, and I know you are because I've watched your videos. But we're going to come to this in a bit. So, how'd you get started? How'd you get what was
Well, since that project in 2003, I was working full time for the government and I just got too busy. But in between time, I sort of stumbled across a pattern one day online and thought, oh, maybe I can do that to keep up the sewing. It's just something to do in the background. And of course, right off the bat, I chose one of the most difficult patterns that I think has ever been produced. And to date, I still haven't finished that one.
Oh, okay. What
And
pattern?
I don't think I ever will. But what actually occurred in I was medically retired from my job in 2017. Um, yeah, I went through a bit and had to leave.
Right.
And then I was the long-term carer for my partner at the time.
Right.
So that all fitted. And so I just became his long-time carer. And then in 2019, we sort of parted our ways and I had some personal tragedies as well. I lost all of the hierarchy of my family in
Right.
2019.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad passed away, then my mum passed away, then we lost my grandfather, and then we lost my grandmother.
Oh my goodness.
And so, following the death of my mum, which was in the middle of the year, I just locked myself in a room with my sewing machine and just started sewing.
So your therapy was your sewing, really?
Yeah. You know, Angela Walters, she
Yes.
says quilting is my therapy. And it truly was.
Yeah.
It truly was. Between 2019 and the middle of the pandemic in 2020, I'd cranked out 100 tops,
Oh my goodness.
like 100 flimsies.
Wow, you were 24/7 sewing.
Pretty
Pretty much.
much. Yeah.
But you know,
And of course, sorry, go on.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
So then, following losing the entire family, the only sort of inheritance was going to come from my grandmother, being the last one to go. And so anything that was due to go to my mother obviously came to my sister and I.
Right.
And because I was so into it and spending quite a lot of money
Yeah.
to crank out so much,
Yeah.
I started my own little online store,
Ah,
which,
makes sense.
so yeah. And then I became really involved with one of the online communities, Pat Sloan.
Yes. Yes.
And I do a lot of her sew alongs, and that is actually what all my videos are sort of based on. You see my shirt?
Yeah. Yes. Zone zone. Yep, I know. I've been watching your videos, and yes,
Yeah.
I know that you were doing a lot of most of your stuff was with Pat Sloan's sew
Mm.
alongs too. And that's great. But just back about the whole idea of the therapy part of the sewing, I think a lot of people used sewing, especially through the pandemic, as a form of therapy because
Yep.
sewing machine sales were up, and a lot of people discovered quilting for as well. In my case, I had retired and I was always a crafter, I was always a creator, but I stumbled into it by accident, and that was before the pandemic. But I'm really glad that I had quilting during the pandemic
Yeah.
because it helped you keep your sanity when you couldn't really go anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like you, I was being very prolific in what I was making during then. So was there anybody in your family then that influenced you into sewing? Was there sewers in your background or?
Yeah. My mum used to make all of our clothes.
Hmm.
And so I actually started sewing from probably before I was at high school.
Right.
And then in later life, she worked as part of in the background of a friend of hers bridal shop.
Uh-huh.
And so I was always around it with mum, but she'd never actually done a quilt or anything.
Right.
It was always just clothing. Like I'll remember when I was 9, I had to go in for major surgery, and she made me all brand new pajamas to take to the hospital. And
Geez. Your mother was very prolific
yeah,
sewer as well with
yeah.
that. So that's good. So did she sit you down and show you how to do some basic sewing when you were young or?
No, I just think I just took over her machine when she wasn't home.
Nope. And did it?
It was something we weren't supposed to touch.
Right, right. I know about that. Yes, that's true. My mother
And
was the
then
same way.
in high school, like we did textile design as one of our, like when I was 12 or 13, like in the first years of high school.
Right.
And that was when she actually was like, right, okay, I'll sit with you and we can.
Yeah. Now that's interesting. You had courses in textile design. When I went to high school, we had we called it home ec, and that was for the girls, and we had shop for the boys. And the
Yeah.
boys were not allowed to take home ec, and the girls were not allowed to take shop. And I hated shop. I wanted to take home ec, but I couldn't. It is
Yeah.
now. I mean, that was many, many years ago
Yeah.
for me. But you know what? And I think it's great that schools offer for whatever sex to go in and learn it, because there's nothing wrong with a male learning how to sew. And we'll come
Yeah.
back to that thought a little bit later on. But right
Yeah.
now, do you have a favorite creation? And if so, why?
Well, one of my favorites was one that I finished just recently. Um, I'm just really happy with how it all actually came together.
Right.
And it's in memory of my mum.
Oh, okay. So is it
Um,
the style of a memory quilt then? Does it have pieces?
no, 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 no. My mum's spirit animal was an owl.
Oh, okay.
She loved owls. And I found this fabric. It was called Into the Woods.
Mm-hmm.
And there's owls on it, which just spoke to me. And I've got an image if you
Yeah, I'd love to
want.
see it. Yeah. Oh, that's gorgeous.
Yeah, so as you can see, the owls were just perfect for these little side blocks.
Yes.
And I think as soon as you've got gray and yellow together, it's just a winning combination.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's a great color combination. It's got, and I can see, I love anything that's got stars or points in it.
Yeah.
So this really speaks to me as well, but that is a really nice quilt. How big is it? Roughly.
Oh, got it. It's just over 6 foot long
Wow, it's a good size.
because I'm actually 6'1" and I'm holding it up. So
Okay, so yep, yes,
yeah, it'd be a decent twin, I think.
yes. You know, just on the side here, I always hate it when people ask me after I've shown one of my quilts and say, "How big is it?" I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't
I never
remember.
measured them.
Yeah, you never measured them
Yeah.
really, you know, kind of a thing. It is what it is. But that's a really, really nice quilt. So where do you keep it now? Do you have it on display or on a bed or?
No, well, see, I share a house with my adopted sister. She's someone that I worked with for years, and she tells everyone that I'm her brother. Um, and I share a house with her and her 2 adult children.
Oh, okay. Full house.
So everything is pretty much in this room.
Yeah.
The fabric that I sell is actually on shelving down the hallway,
Okay.
and my long arm is in the living room.
All right. So you've got, now I'm going to talk about your long arm and your equipment in a minute. So sounds like you're using up a lot of every nook and cranny you can get stuff into.
Yeah, the only rooms that I'm not actually in is the other 3 bedrooms.
Oh. Yet.
Yeah. I know, right?
So that's nice. So I always consider quilters to be, and sewers to be artists, but a lot of people think of when you say you quilt that, oh, well, you know, they associate us with crafters, you know, they think, you know, glue gun, construction paper and stuff like that. And I'm on a mission to change that attitude in the world. We are artists. And so as an artist, how would you describe yourself? Are you traditional, modern, free form, experimental?
Look, my preferred, like when I was cranking out stuff that wasn't part of a sew along or a block of the month or whatever, I was very much modern.
Okay.
But now, like with the sew alongs with Pat and everything, they're all very they're traditional and they're all samplers.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of them are symmetric samplers and some are asymmetric. Like we're currently doing one that I'm not doing videos for because it's from a book.
Oh, okay.
That's very asymmetric.
Right.
Which with that, then you've got to be careful what you choose for your backgrounds and stuff. So that you've got at least one thing that makes it cohesive.
Yes, true. Yeah. Yes. Well, Pat's too, her stuff does tend to lean towards more traditional. Although, having said that, you know, she does love having the little houses in things, and I love the little houses and things too. I'm attracted to those as well, and I tend to think of those as leaning more towards modern as opposed to traditional, because I can't think of any traditional blocks where you really see, like, you might see 1 or 2 houses, but you know, usually these house ones are very eclectic, like it's different houses you've seen and all that. And that's what I think is very modern about this.
I think the only traditional one is the schoolhouse block, which goes back eons. Like
that's true. Yes, that's true. So you were showing me beforehand your sewing area, so we won't look at that. Well, we'll just leave that. But so can you sort of describe your work area then? And I think you already kind of have, because you said you have things out in the hall, you have one room, it's your bedroom, your long arms in another room. So I guess that's already been described. So
yeah. And we've got a massive dining room table that seats 10.
Right.
And that's my big cutting area.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, it's nice to have that area for that. But I guess since you share a house and that, I suppose it's like having to pick up all your stuff all the time when you, which is, you know, that's a bit of a pain, but you know, we make whatever we have work. So let's talk about your tools. Do you have, well, what do you use for sewing machine? What do you have for sewing machine?
I've got a Janome 6600.
Yep. Great machine.
That I bought, like, I think right before the M7 came out. So instead of the original 6,000 price tag, I paid 1.5 for it.
Oh, okay. Got it for a
And
good price.
yeah, and prior to that, I was just still using like a Soest 500 or something, which was also a Janome, but very like in comparison.
Yeah.
I took this one in to be, so I have to get it serviced twice a year because of the amount of sewing I do.
I guess I was going to say, so the 6600, I started with the 6700P,
Yeah.
which was a great workhorse. And now my husband uses it. He's a garment sewer. I tried to get him into quilting. He tried one, he didn't like it, although he did do a stained glass quilt as his first
Yeah.
project, and it came out beautiful. But he
Yeah.
rather make shirts. So that's what he does in pants and things, men's clothing. So he uses that. But I now have an M7 as well. But yeah, I love the 6700P. I love my M7. They're great machines. So
Yeah.
and do you have any, now you say you have a long arm. So what do you have for long arm?
Well, because I was limited on space and I knew that it was going to have to go in, I just have a Moxie on an 8-foot frame.
Yep.
But I just, in my own self, I've never actually been able to or enjoyed sitting at the machine quilting.
Yeah.
So even though like with this newer machine, I obviously could.
Yeah.
And I have a really old Elna that belonged to my grandma.
Oh, okay.
Which was perfect actually for the free like darning.
Yeah.
But that's what they call it. But it's the same sort of. But I just knew that I had to buy. So when the Moxie was coming out, it's like, well, that will fit. It won't take up too much more of the house.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. By the sounds of things, you don't have a lot of more house to take up anyway. So.
But I'm at a point even with that now where it's like, oh, I really want a bigger one. Like,
yeah, I know that thing, and I agree with you too. I was quilting mine on my domestic, and even though with the M7, it's got a huge throat space and whatnot, it's that bulk. So yeah, I have a long arm too as well. And
I mean, there's no basting. There's no.
I know. I think that in itself is worth the price of a long arm when we're layering it, because I was crawling on the floor, I was crawling on tables, I was using spray basting, I was pinning. I hated that process. Now, you go in, you throw it up on the machine, you've got it all ready to go within under half an hour, which is just in itself is a beautiful thing.
It's so nice.
Yeah. So what's your favorite? Do you have a favorite tool that you can't live without beyond your sewing machines?
Look, I was asked this by someone else recently, and I said my favorite tool is my brain.
Ah, okay.
Because it helps me to create everything that I actually do.
That's a very interesting answer, because you're right. If we didn't have a brain, we wouldn't be able to.
Yeah. So I mean, it's the one that I use the most.
Yep. And
but like with a physical tool, I suppose. I don't know. See, that's harder when you have to actually think about it.
I know it's a trick question. No, it's not really.
Of course, there's things that you need.
Yep.
And yet you can't do this without. But as for a favorite, I mean, my with the long arm in itself, I have a muscle condition, so it's hard for me to coordinate movement sometimes. So I use a lot of the Westerly templates.
Oh yes.
Even on the long arm.
Yep.
I'm stuck at the moment on the Wandering Ways meander. Everyone gets a meander. And what I'm hoping with that is that I'll eventually have the muscle memory to do it without the template.
Yeah.
By constantly doing that on just pretty much everything at the moment.
Yes. Well, that's how you get good at it, right? It's practice with it. But I want to go back to your brain, because I am a great believer in, I mean, I've been retired for 10 years and I was a school teacher. And I watched my parents, when they stopped working, their brains just deteriorate because they had nothing to keep their brains going.
Yeah.
And that brought them to, is in my idea, they came to an early death, really, with that. And so I'm determined that, no, I'm going to keep my brain going, and quilting does that because of the creative aspect, because you're always thinking, right? What if or you're learning something, and it never gets boring. It never gets old. There's always something new. So yeah, I really agree with you. I think most important tool is our brain. And
Yep.
you're probably the first person I'm not probably, I know for sure you're the first person to say that in any interview. So that was great. So my next question then goes to the more, okay, if you had all the money in the world, is there something you would buy for your
my own space.
Right? I can see why that would be important. Yeah, for that.
Yeah.
Now you were talking though, if you had the space too, and you had the money, would you? And I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this question. Would you buy a bigger long arm?
Yeah, I'd get a Gamel.
Yeah. Oh yes, the king of them all, the Gamel.
Yeah, because I would like to do it professionally, like,
Oh, okay, yeah.
or at least offer that as a service with the shop. But at the moment, I really can't. I mean, I've got 100 and something of my own quilt tops that are still just languishing. So
You've got enough to keep you busy for a while. True. On it. Yeah, I have an APQS. And I love my machine, but I cheat. Well, it's not cheating. People think it's cheating. I have the computerized system on with it. And it's really not cheating because it has a learning curve that's very steep. I'm still trying to learn it. And there are still problems with that kind of thing. But I know in myself, I am never going to be a free motion long arm quilter.
Same.
Because I don't have the patience to learn it. But I love technology. I mean, I got into sewing for the equipment. Really. I mean, I love machines. So that's the kind of thing that appealed to me. So
I'm waiting for the Pro Stitcher Lite. It's been released, and they released it specifically for the Moxie and their lower machines.
Yeah.
But they're having trouble getting it certified in Australia with the power.
Oh, okay.
So it's being held up by getting sign off on the electricity conversion.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's a problem. I know too, just as an aside, that there seems to be a lot of problems getting things in Australia, like getting it shipped over, and it costs you an arm and a leg for everything too. So like you said, that 6,600, the regular price, if you paid the regular price, was 6,000.
Yeah,
that's
I think so.
That's
well, that's Australian dollars. Yeah,
but I'm comparing it to Canadian dollars. Australian dollar and the Canadian dollar are almost at par with each other.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah,
usually
the M7 is
yours, but
the M7 is 10.5 here.
Wow, that's not what I paid for it. No, I paid more, like about 7,500.
And
the 6,700p, when I bought it, that was about a $3,000 machine years ago. So yeah, the price is there. Well, maybe I don't want to immigrate.
It's crazy. And like I said, like I have the small online store,
right?
And there was I was assured by one of our wholesalers that fabric now gets drop shipped, so it goes to the US and to Australia at the same time from the mill.
Oh, okay.
So that both places have the fabric at the same time.
Well,
and I'm like, great, because normally it would have to go to America first and then come to us from, Moda or whoever.
Mm-hmm.
But there was one fabric line in particular that I was after, and I got them to guarantee that it would be here at the same time as the US, because a friend of mine who also has a store got caught with having a whole heap of fabric she couldn't sell, because by the time it finally made to Australia, everybody had ordered it from overseas.
Oh, right.
And that's what we have. There's like a 6-month gap.
Yeah.
And so for a fabric line that was due in August last year, I received it in January this year.
Oh, geez.
And so it's just sitting here because people bought it from elsewhere in the interim.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's not that different from Canada, because I mean, most of the manufacturers of fabric, it goes to the States first, and even for us in Canada to get it, we either have to order it online first from the States, and even then it takes a bit of time, and it costs us in duty and other things like that. But by the time our stores get it here, it may not be a 6-month spread, but it can be a couple of months different from the Americans have it.
Yeah, and like they don't sometimes as well, like our wholesaler for one particular company, I won't name and shame. Yeah. So there's a wholesaler that I deal with, and they have they've got the contract for one particular company, but the fabric that I'd want from that manufacturer, they don't import.
Oh, okay.
So I've been asked for it by a lot of people,
Yeah.
because of my affiliation with. And I cannot get it.
Oh,
I could be making a fortune selling Pat's fabric, but the wholesaler doesn't import it.
isn't that?
So my only option then was to order it direct from the US. And I looked into that, and the shipping alone was going to be over $1,000.
Oh my God.
And so it's like, well, I can't do that. Like,
No, no, no. You know,
probably best to leave that part out. But we struggle because the wholesalers are here, but they don't necessarily get everything either.
no, no, that's right. Well, you know, that's really in this day and age of the way we can, you know, buzz around the world and things, you have to wonder what the problem is there, why it costs that much. I mean, the world's a small place, really, given to technology and our transportation technology to do. But I have heard that from other people too in Australia, that things are so difficult to get, or just the price to get them is just.
Well, I'm shipping tomorrow a 2-kilo package to someone in the US, and it's $80.
Oh my goodness.
Postage. So
I hope they realize that.
yeah, and I had someone order, and they were in South Africa.
Yep.
And they said, they came to me and they said, I'm having trouble getting things from the States because the postal service in South Africa is very questionable at best anyway.
Right.
And she said, so I can't order anything that comes through normal postage. Can you use a courier? And I'm like, sure, but I'll have to give you that price. And it was $180. But she got what she wanted, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas when she'd ordered from the US, because they won't change their shipping,
right,
parcels went missing, and, you know.
Yeah.
So I guess in her instance, it was worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all depends. I mean, if it's something you really, really want, then I guess you'll pay the price to really get it. So speaking though of fabric and thing, now do you have, since you have a store, you're dealing with wholesalers and things like that. So this question probably doesn't really apply, because I was going to ask you, do you have favorite stores or online shops you go to
yes,
buy fabric?
I still do.
Oh, okay.
Because I can't personally get everything.
Right.
My online store is very tiny, and like I started it with $40,000. So that's not actually a lot once it's transferred into bolts of fabric. So when new stuff comes out, like I go to my friend who's fabricsource.com here in Australia, and that's sauce as in like the sauce that you put on a burger or something.
Oh, okay.
Like SAUCE.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, Mandy's wonderful. And then I also deal with another lady who is in Tasmania, who gets a lot of the Robert Kaufman stuff. So I was just recently asked to do a gravity, the Jaybird Quilts gravity for someone.
Yes.
And I needed, like, they don't do the 10-inch stacks anymore, which is what that was actually made with, because it's got 113 different shades.
Yes, I know the quilt you're talking about, the design.
Yeah. And so I ordered like a 25 centimeter cut of 114 separate. And she rang me up and she's like, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah. And can you label each of the colors, please? Yeah. So I have a couple that I go to, and they still count. They're personal purchases. Yeah.
Yes.
Because it's stuff that I'm after that I can't physically get myself, because you have to buy a minimum amount. Yeah. And I'm like, I'll just still get a fat quarter bundle here and there from other places.
Yeah. Well,
so yeah, Fabric Source. And what was her name? Can't remember the name of the other one. Maybe Fabric Pixie.
Okay. So,
yeah, but I don't go to any of the bulk stores. Like we here in Australia have a Spotlight and Lincraft.
Yes, I know what
which I guess is like Michael's and Joanne's.
Yeah.
I don't go there at all. I find the quality of their fabric to be questionable.
Yeah, this is same as Joanne's and Michael's. I wouldn't buy fabric there. It's crap.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, it's crap. We don't have Joann's in Canada. We have Michael's, but Michael's is the same as Joann's and same as
Yep.
Spotlight. And I'm familiar with Spotlight because we went to a couple of Spotlights when we were in Australia to check it out.
Yeah.
I said to my husband, says, "Yep, just like Michael's here as well." So, but so have you? So I'm going to change track here a little bit. Have you ever belonged to an online group or a guild or a design team or anything like that?
Not really, but like I am one of Pat's ambassadors with her Facebook community,
Right.
and she has over 300,000 people
Yeah.
in that community. And then I guess with her daily videos, like I'm in the chat as an ambassador, and so I guess you could say that that's kind of like
Yes. Yep.
and I do all the sew alongs, and now I'm doing the videos to complement Pat with the sew alongs and stuff, and people seem to like it. So I would, that would be my going, yes, I do.
Well, I've seen you. You're a member of the guy who sews Sean, his discourse server, the Quilters Co-op. I'm on there.
Yeah, I don't look at it very often. I'm so hopeless with that.
Yeah, I am too. In fact, I find it overwhelming because there's so many people on there, and it's just I can't keep up with the discussions. There's so much.
Yeah.
So I pop in, I might pop in once a day just to see what's going on, but sadly I don't really participate in as much as.
So, well, that's why I wouldn't include that. Like I am part of that, but that was more from a YouTube creator perspective.
Right.
And like my channel is very fresh. Yeah. And some of the people in there, they have great content. And they're like, at 1 a.m. last night, actually, I bumped into one of the girls from there, Brenda, who was just running a live. Oh. And I sat there having a chat with Brenda, and she's like, "Well, shouldn't you be sleeping?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'll get there eventually." And that's the thing, because my audience, even for my channel, is 95% in the US.
Yes.
And like I've been thinking about doing a live. Sean mentioned it to me the other day, and I'm just like, but the timing is just not right. Like, I don't sleep at the best of times, but deliberately putting something in for me to do when I should be sleeping is just not going to aid that situation.
No. Sorry about that.
No. This is fine. I'm not normally in bed before midnight at all. Like,
okay, well, good. I don't want you to lose sleep because your brain, it's your most important tool, does need to sleep, right?
Well, I slept until 3:00 today, so I'm good for today.
You're up and fresh like a bunny. Yeah, I was awake at like 4 this morning.
Yeah.
Really couldn't get back to sleep. So, but I refused to get out of bed at 4 in the morning because I know come about lunchtime I'll need a nap. A long nap. So, what I was going to go to next is, so do you have, now I know that Pat Sloan is probably one of the answers to this question, but do you have other favorite so-called experts or sources of information you go to for, maybe inspiration or to learn new techniques or something like that?
I used to watch the Quilt Show with Alex Anderson and Tim.
Ricky Timms, yeah.
Tim, yeah.
Yeah, Ricky.
Who is it?
Yeah.
But I don't know, not really, because I just tend to, before I started doing the sew-alongs and like all of that kind of stuff, I just sort of did my own thing.
Right.
And every now and then I'd like find a technique and it's like, so I just do a quick YouTube.
Yeah.
The very first pre-2019, I did a quilt for when my nephew was born. He's 10 now, so that would have been 2012. And that was from a Missouri Star tutorial that I saw. But I don't really watch them or go to them anymore. Yeah, I just I've always just done my own thing, and if it worked, it worked. If it didn't, it didn't.
Yeah. So
and I could also like look at a quilt block and instantly know how to make it. Like,
your brain works that way. Yeah. Because I was going to say, then it sounds to me like you're more of the kind of quilter who maybe if you use a pattern, you use it maybe just as a guide and you make it your own. Or you're an improver. Yeah, you.
I don't really improv, but like I did purchase a pattern to do a maze quilt.
Yep.
So very similar to Labyrinth Walk,
Hmm. Hmm.
but I even made the Labyrinth Walk without buying the pattern.
Oh,
Like
okay.
I worked it out, looked at it online, and
Well, that is quite a talent to be able to do that, you know.
but then I wanted to do a maze that you could actually go through.
Oh, okay.
And I found a pattern online and I purchased it. But in there, they had all these 1.5 inch blocks that weren't necessary, and and all these bits and pieces that I guess for a beginner quilter,
Yeah,
you would do it that way.
right.
But I sat here over the course of 2 days and I redrew every single piece of that pattern so that I was doing it all in solid bits
Hmm.
with sew and flips, and making and made that pattern my own.
Yeah. Well, you want to know something? I have come across patterns now that I've been doing this for a while. And like you, I use the patterns more as a guide, because you're
Yeah,
right. Some of them are written and you look at it and you go, why? Why would I do it that way? That's
yeah,
a lot of work for something, that I can do in less steps and get the same end
yeah,
result.
yeah.
So
It's
yeah,
a more advanced technique,
yes,
obviously, but I just didn't want all of those seams in because to me that would take away from the whole 3D effect.
yeah, yeah, true.
And everything that I used to do was in 3D. I didn't cut anything that wasn't a 60-degree angle.
Yeah,
Or in the case of those maze quilts, that was 45. But
right. Yeah. Well, I've also
yeah,
found though lately, and I don't know if this is a trend, and it's not a good trend if it is, lately some of the patterns that I have been looking at and that are full of mistakes. They always tell you read a pattern all the way through. Well, I'm the kind of
yeah,
person that glances at it and just goes, right? Which is, I'm finding right now, not so good, because I don't know what they're doing with these patterns now, but they're not being
yeah.
proofread. They're they literally have mistakes. So now my
Mm.
thing is, if I do buy a commercial pattern, I will do a search on the internet to see if there's any corrections to that pattern,
Yeah, yeah.
because I've been burned a couple of times.
Or errata, whatever they call it.
Yeah, yeah, because
Yeah, yeah.
you
Well,
know,
back in 2011, I got because I was obsessed with tumbling blocks.
right?
And so this is in the period when I wasn't really quilting yet, but I stumbled across God, what's her name? Marcy Baker.
Okay, I don't know that name.
And she has a book. It's called ABC 3D and more.
Oh, okay.
And she developed the strip piecing method to make 3D tumbling blocks and stuff. So there's no Y seams, there's no anything. And the book that I ordered came with another slip of paper that said, here are corrections for pages, whatever, whatever.
Okay,
And that
but
was in 2011.
yeah, but at least it came with those corrections. So
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't have a problem if it comes along. They say, okay, and by the way, on page 3, you should instruction 5, it
yeah.
should have read this. That's fine. It's when you don't know and you're halfway through the quilt and you either don't have enough fabric or
Mhm.
suddenly the pieces, wait, these measurements are not right. So
Yeah, yeah.
that annoys me to no end. So what was the
So
name?
even with that though, I'm not afraid of a Y seam.
Oh, I am.
Like some people seem to fear them.
Well, I've done them, but if I can avoid them, I will.
Oh, where did you go? Hold on.
Oh, there it is.
This other, yeah. See, I'm not afraid of a Y seam.
Okay. Yeah, no, you're not. That's really neat.
Let me get this up big. Hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's
Oh, that went back to the start. Hold on. There.
it'll come up. It'll come up.
Yeah. Is that showing now?
Yes, there it is.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I'm not
that's
afraid of a Y seam.
no, you can't be afraid of a Y seam to do a pattern like that. That's really cool though. Now, is that from that book you were mentioning, or is this
No, this one was actually just a pattern that I found somewhere online. And I think it was to go with a specific fabric line from Moda.
okay?
But I've made it out of grunge and what I had left of the Quilting Cowboys pottery fabric.
Oh, yes, yes. I used to watch the Quilting Cowboy before he went weird.
Yeah.
Or weirder, but that's
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
another day. Now I'm just looking over here on the screen too. There's another quilt that looks very, very interesting.
This
The
one.
Yeah, the one with that one is so yeah, that's really that one looks challenging.
It was. There's a He's not around much. His name is Nicholas Turcan.
Oh, okay. I'm not familiar with that. Then.
And he has a company called Mystery in Stitches or Mystery Stitches.
Oh, okay.
And I love grunge.
Yes.
Grunge, if I could own every piece of grunge in the world, I would. And I have 2 whole fabric shelves of it in the hallway.
Okay. I think your love for it is an obsession.
Yeah, yeah. And he was doing this. This was a block of the month, over a 12-month period.
Right.
And yeah, as you can see, it's not actually finished yet. But
Oh.
every month as well, you got a chapter of a book
Oh,
that was a murder mystery. And that's the Mystery in Stitches.
I see.
And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. I kind of
Yeah.
like that. But that's a gorgeous quilt, and it's not finished yet, you say, so it's going to be
Yeah, it's got to be Quilter.
yeah.
And then the only other 2 that I had here to show you that I was happy with, I made this one for my niece.
Oh, that's cute.
And it's like a king size. Like I am holding it up at the absolute extreme of my arms, and it's still folded on the floor.
Now, that's all block piecing? That's not applique, or is it applique? Is there applique?
No, it's all pieced.
Oh, okay.
Like pieced blocks. And she hasn't gotten that one yet. And I don't have a photo of this next one finished, but I did this one for my nephew.
Oh, that's really cool too.
And you can see I'm actually standing on a ladder.
Oh, yeah. So you go big or go home kind of a thing, don't you?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, with it, but that's great. Yeah. My quilts have been getting smaller since I started for some reason. No, I started off making them like the queen size and the whole bed, bed quilts, and now they're coming down a little bit in that size. But I think part of that was because that was before I got the long arm, because
Yeah.
pushing that all through underneath your throat in your machine, no. But now I have the long arm, maybe I'll go back to the bigger ones again. So I want to ask you a question about being a male quilter. Have you had any incidents of like a type of discrimination because you're male from a store or a group or a class or anything like that?
Oh, look, at several times throughout the years, I've walked into a store and it's like that old Western scene where everyone goes quiet and looks.
Yep.
But I've found the instant that I've opened my mouth and Prada comes out,
Yeah.
that they go, oh, okay. Yeah, even back when I was garment sewing, like I've never really, I know that it's out there, and probably if I was to be in an in-person guild, I might find it a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing. I went out to one of the country towns here, Bendigo, a little while ago for their own local quilt show, and I felt that people were going, "Oh, what's this?" And then I started talking to the ladies that were part of the show, and they were all of a sudden, it's like the instant is there and the feeling is there, but then as soon as I've started talking to people, it
goes away. Yeah, I've experienced the same thing. You said when you walked in the store and opened your mouth. In my case, I walk into the store and I open up my wallet, and then it goes ching, because when I go in and I buy fabric, I buy fabric. I buy fabric. But I did belong to a guild. I was the only man with 100 women, and most of the ladies were absolutely lovely in the whole bit, but a few of them were not. They were very nasty to me, and I don't know why, but I left the guild because I just couldn't put up with that. And they had a quilt show too as well, and you walked in and there was an air. just an air, like you have violated a sacred sanctuary or something. And men,
Yeah.
don't way they had garlic on and holding up crosses. So that's what it felt like. They didn't really do that. So, but not all guilds are like that. I know that. And yeah, and once you're in a quilt store and once you start to talk about it, they realize, oh, you are a quilter. And in most cases, they're fine.
And then I whip out the photos.
Yeah.
And there was one lady, she was gobsmacked at one of the quilts that I'd made. She's like, "You really made that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it wasn't hard." Like,
yeah. Yeah, I know. And the other thing that I have found, and I mean, this is going to sound very chauvinistic. I know how this must sound to any of the ladies that are watching this, and I don't mean to be chauvinistic, but for some reason, complete strangers will walk up to me in a quilt store with 2 bolts of fabric in their arms and go, "I'm looking for this. Which one do you think goes better with it?"
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's personal taste, but I have learned over time just go, "Oh yeah, that one, that's the perfect," and that's the one they buy. I should be selling fabric, but I don't know what that is. I mean, I don't know any more about it than that person picking the fabric would. But instead of like hemming and hawing about it, so yeah, pick that one. You got feeling. You do that really fast. Yeah, I go. But kind of a thing. So,
well, that's what most people compliment me on is my color choices and how I put things together. And I actually said to one girl the other day, I said, 95% of it all comes together in a bundle.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
But for the individual block, I'm picking what I'm using, but, it's all going to coordinate because I bought it all together. Like,
yeah. And I don't know if you get this, but one question I absolutely hate when I'm in a quilt store, and it's happened to me this week, and I'm buying all this fabric. And so the first question I get asked, "So what are you going to make with that?" And my answer is always, "I don't know. It's pretty."
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. Like it's as if you have to have a plan. I don't. If I see a fabric, that's what I was doing the other day. I saw a line of fabric that they got into the store. I really like the colors. I have absolutely no plans for it, but it was pretty. So it'll get used someday somewhere along the thing, but I just hate the question.
Yeah. Like that Into the Woods fabric line from the gray and yellow quilt that I made in memory of my mum. I just saw the owls and it was gorgeous. And I love the muted tones of the gray. And without a thought, I ordered it.
Yep.
And I had to get that one from the States because no one in Australia had it. But it's like, no, I have to have this fabric.
Yep.
And then it sat here for about 3 months. And then I'm like, oh, maybe I'll fussy cut it out of an owl and see how it works in the crush block, which is what the main blocks are from a pattern called Crush. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to modify the pattern to fit. So I then had to downsize the pattern, which I did. And then the middle ones are the actual original size of the block. And I just, so when I bought it, I had no idea what I was going to make. No. I just had to have
it. And, sometimes too, like, I don't know how you have your fabric stored, but I used to store mine in drawers and I didn't know what I had because I was sight out of mind, right? So when I redid my sewing room, I had built-in bookshelves and that's where all my fabric sits now. It's all lined up there. And if I need inspiration or I'm between projects and I'm not sure what I want to do next, I just look at that shelf and I go, that one. I get my ideas from the fabric kind of.
Yeah, well, most of my fabric is on bolts.
And
so they're all on the open shelves in the hallway. But I opened up a box the other day and I was just like, oh, that's what's in here. Because I've got some they're not see-through on the shelves as well. And they're all fat quarters or fat quarter bundles or leftovers from other projects and stuff. And I opened up this one thing and I'm like, man, this fabric would have to be at least 5 years old. Like it's something that I've bought in the past on sale somewhere that I thought was cute.
Yep.
And I'm like, so I'm now using it to do the fat quarter shop Christmas mystery sew along.
Oh yes, yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, so I've currently got 7 projects and 2 commissions with deadlines, but
oh, so you do commission quilts too?
Yeah.
People. Okay, I don't know, and you don't have to answer this, but on average, what would you charge somebody for a commission quilt? And the reason
I did. Yeah, well, another friend of mine asked for a Minecraft one, which is like the one I made my nephew. but they wanted it much smaller, like just for a single. And I basically just charged her the cost of my fabric.
Right.
And then I put my time to actually make it at $20 an hour.
Okay. The reason I asked that question is because, quilts are undervalued by people who are not quilters. They look at something. I've had people approach me and they say, "Oh, I would love you to make me one of those quilts." And I'd say to them, "Okay," but I said, "I don't think you can afford me." And they think I'm joking.
Yeah.
And well, how much would that cost? And then I say, well, to start with, there's probably $300 worth of fabric in that. And then there's my time and all of that. So I said, "Oh, a thou." And they look at you and go, "What?" And I said, "You thought you were going to get it for under 100, didn't you?" Not going to happen. No.
Yeah.
But
Well, the
if it's a friend,
if it's the gravity one that I'm doing.
Yeah.
The gravity one that I'm doing was $1,500.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm also making that bigger because they've got like I don't know. Well, they've got a king size. And I know in the States, I don't know if in Canada they have the California king, which is bigger again.
Yeah.
The king sizes here are basically just 2 singles.
Yeah.
But this one is king singles.
Okay.
So the gravity quilt in itself is only 98 by 100, I think.
Yeah.
Which isn't big enough. So I'm actually putting extra. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that.
And I sent her the quote before we did anything. I said, "Here's what it will cost you for me to make that, because I've got to get 114 different shades of fabric.
Yeah.
I don't personally have that here. So I'm going to pay retail for that." Like,
yeah.
And she was like, "No, that's worth it to have one of your creations."
Okay. Well, that's flattering, right there off the bat. If someone says to me, I had a friend who said, I'd really like, I was doing some quilts with a Canadian theme on it. He said, "I'd really like one of those." He said, "I'd like to, buy one, have you make one." And that's the one I said, "Well, this one," but I said, "You're a friend. You can have it for nothing." I said, "I'll give it to you. I'll give it." Because I said, "There's no way I'm going to get that kind of money out of it." And, once I've done a quilt, it sits on a shelf. It's done. I move on to the next one. So, and I've got about 60, 70 quilts piled up that are complete in my long arm. And I got to find more people to give them to, because, I don't even know what I have. Once I'm done, I'm done. That's it. And
I post all of mine on Facebook and stuff, and now I post them through the business page.
Right.
And I'll have a friend, she said to me once, she's like, "Oh, I really love this one." And so I gave her that for Christmas. And then she's like, "Oh, no, you can't just give it to me." And I'm like, "All right, take me out to dinner, whatever."
Have me a bottle of wine. Yeah, I've said that, but just get me a bottle of wine.
Well, I don't drink. I'm 5 years in recovery.
Oh, okay. Well, not so good for you, but in recovery too, but I'm not. So speaking of your store and everything, let's talk about your social online presence. So you've got your YouTube channel, which lately you've been saying you've been doing a lot of the Pat Sloan sew-alongs and that. And I know your latest one on there is the hometown Christmas.
Hometown charms.
Yeah, that's going on with that.
I'm using Christmas fabric, but
well, I mean, you can use whatever, right, on it. But I was going to say, I'm going to put the link to your YouTube channel in the show notes for this interview when it goes up. But let's talk about your other sites. Like you said, you have a business site.
Yeah, on Facebook, I just have Quilting Basics as a business page.
Okay.
I'll get you the link to that after.
Yeah, great.
And apart from that, it's just the quiltingbasics.com.au is my actual shop page. But because of shipping, I'm not shipping outside Australia.
Right.
And I don't really have Instagram. Like, I only have my personal Instagram.
Yeah.
And my personal Facebook. I've got to start a few of these things. But I actually said to my sister when I started the online store, it's like, I'm interested in doing that. I had the opportunity to purchase a business, but I only had a limited amount of funds and I couldn't get a loan for the rest of it. And so my sister was going to go in with me, and then we would have been able to purchase this already existing business. But it didn't happen. And so I started my online store. But I've always just said, you know, if I don't sell anything, how bad is it going to be left with a whole heap of fabric, you know?
Well, yeah, sure.
Oh no, what am I going to do with fabric?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
And so the selection is small.
right,
And at the moment, I've only bought things that I know I will personally use.
right.
And from doing the commissions and making certain things for people,
Yeah,
I'm selling the fabric not by the meter, but
right.
by the quilt.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Well, that makes sense. You
So
know,
I'm still able to have the joy of buying wholesale, which is a hell
right.
of a lot cheaper.
Mhm.
But I am still running a business of it. Not I can sell it to you by the meter, or I'll make you something out of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that, yeah, that works. Well, yeah, like you said, because of the way the shipping costs and things like that for Australia, that does limit
Yeah,
you a little bit
yeah,
when you're running an online business as such. I am sure though people who go to the site really wish you could ship it from Australia because I'm sure that's I haven't looked at it yet. I'll be honest,
yeah.
because I didn't realize beyond YouTube that you had this other, but I'll be definitely going and checking it out now.
Yeah, and my original concept as well, which is why I've got the name Quilting Basics, is I just wanted to stock the basics that you need
Hmm.
to make a project. So I have cutting mats, I have rotary cutters, I have pins, I've got a creative grids selection of creative grids rulers, and then I've got solids and blenders.
Hmm.
So I don't buy any of the Tula Pink. I mean, I've got line work, but that's
Yeah.
because I wanted to use a lot of that to do a certain project myself.
Right.
But I just stocked basics. And then I have my friend that I mentioned earlier, Mandy from Fabric Source,
Yeah.
and we were working out an affiliate deal. And if you want to buy that Tilda Chambray, I can recommend my friend Mandy.
No.
She can sell that to you to go with what you're getting from me.
Well, that's a good idea.
Because I was always going to be running it from the hallway.
Yeah.
Like, so
Yeah.
and that's where the name came from. I needed to keep it basic.
Yeah.
And so come to me for the very basics of quilting.
Yeah.
And I can recommend other places for you to go to for other stuff. And then that's why with the YouTube channel, my tutorials are about basic blocks,
Yeah. I get it.
right? But I also change a lot of the patterns. So I'll use an eight at a time half square triangles rather than making them two at a time.
Yeah.
Or I used to do all sew and flips with the folded corner clipper.
Hmm.
But from the YouTube channel, I've now actually mastered doing them the traditional method and prefer it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I always make my flying geese four at a time, even if I only need one,
Yeah.
because I can make them perfect if I
Yeah.
do them four at a time.
Because you can trim them down and get that,
Yeah.
and avoid all
Yeah.
those
So
things with 5/8 of an inch or whatever. And I hate.
So, I mean, there's a lot of influence from Deb Tucker in that respect. Make it
Yes.
bigger and trim it down for
Yeah.
accuracy. So
Yeah.
if I can work that out, then I do. Like, and again, so my videos were always going to be basics. You
Yeah.
know, this is what you need to get started. And so Pat tries not to make her patterns very difficult because she has found in the past that people won't do them if they're difficult.
True.
And like this week, for example, our block for the hometown charms was a log cabin.
Mm.
And it took me 8 minutes to actually do the whole process start to finish. And I'm like, that's going to be a really short video.
I
Like,
saw that video. I just watched that one the other day. Yeah.
and so to show people how simple it was, I didn't even add in a lot of my voiceovers or anything that I normally do. I
Yeah.
just literally sewed it.
Yeah.
And I was actually thinking of putting the real-time footage up to prove that I did it in under 8 minutes.
Well, I think the whole concept of what you're saying, the basics and that, I think that is a good thing, especially for people who want to get into quilting, but they're a little intimidated by it, and there's
Yeah.
so many videos out there. You get the Jenny Dones, the Donna Jordans, and
Yeah.
and Angela Walters and the whole bit, and they're great. They're wonderful, but they're intimidating because they take things that are much more complicated. They tend to make it look like it's easy, but it's not.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, people need things that go to the basics to build. build the skill set.
Yeah, well, like the Fat Quarter Shop has the ultimate beginner quilt.
Yes.
There's a series of videos that they have for that. And I was actually, my first videos were, I was trying to design my own beginner quilt to sell the whole, here's a bundle of fabrics, and here's videos, go and make your first quilt.
Yeah.
But then as I'm designing it, I'm like, it's very similar to what they have, because we're going to do a rail fence. So you've got strip piecing. Then the first thing that you do with, half square triangles is a pinwheel. And it's like, so it's going to be too similar. So I scrapped that idea.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want to copy, but
right. Yeah. I understand.
To show you the basics, which is what they do in each of those 9 blocks, it's a new skill.
Yes.
And I think the last block is an incorporation of 3 of them together in the last block. And it's like, I can't do that and be different enough.
No. Yeah. Like there's no sense reinventing the wheel.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. So do you have any challenges or goals for the future?
I'm not one to set goals. At the moment, I'm just hoping that I don't take on any more work. I've got everything. There's racks out in the dining room, and I just put everything together that are the active works in progress the other day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm doing the 100 block, 100-day challenge.
Okay.
But I do, I do those 5 at a time. Yeah. I do those 5 at a time on any one day. Then I've got, today was actually the next one in another sew along. I'm doing a year-long sew along, which is based on a book called The Secret Lives of Color. Then I've got the Wednesday videos that I do, which they take me 2 days to edit and get together.
Yeah.
All of my personal projects, I've got 8 that I haven't touched in over a year.
Oh, geez.
Because I'm so busy. And I've got 2 other block of the months that I'm doing that every month the pieces arrive for it and they're just going in a box. Like,
yeah. Okay. You are busy, but
so my only goal at the moment is to finish what I currently have on board and then just do 2 or 3 as an ongoing, because I took this commission on and I didn't look at it for 8 weeks. And then I rang her the other day and I said, look, I'm really sorry. I'm getting back to that this week. My machine's not big enough to quilt it here.
Right.
So I'm dropping it off on Tuesday. That's my goal at this very minute, is to have that ready to take to my friend Jemima on Tuesday to get it quilted.
Yeah. So, but in the process of all of this busyness that you have in that, are you enjoying it?
Oh, yeah. Like from the moment I wake up till I go to bed, I am either at my machine. I'm designing my own quilt at the moment to try and put out on my channel as a sew along myself.
Yep.
Which will incorporate some of the flowers from the quilt I showed you before for my niece.
Yeah.
With permission from that pattern owner. And some butterflies. Yeah. But on a smaller scale. I'm constantly doing something towards the business. My brain doesn't know how to be idle.
Yeah. Well, that's not necessarily a bad thing. So, like I said before,
so
back to the brain.
I'm working on Dear Jane as well, the Dear Jane quilt.
Oh my God, I started that and I'm never going to finish it. That was too much. That was too tiny little pieces in the whole bit. So I said,
I know my big man hands aren't really enjoying that, but to keep me motivated, I started a Facebook group for that actually.
Oh yeah.
But then I found, because I'm such a presence in the Pat Sloan community and stuff, that they were all looking to me to give them guidance on how to do these things. And I'm like, no, I've started this group so that everyone that's working on it can bounce off each other and be motivated. I said, I am not currently even looking at it.
Yeah.
Like, I've started the group so that everyone is here. They're all working towards that goal and we can all motivate each other.
Yep.
But I'm not currently doing it. Like, don't look to me to run this as a sew along. Like,
but that's
I can't. But
that allows
I do the hand.
that allows.
Yeah, but I do the hand piecing when I'm just sitting.
Yep.
If I ever take the time to watch a movie, I do the hand piecing while I'm watching the movie.
Yeah.
Like, because I can't sit and just watch the movie.
Oh,
I have to.
I have to be doing something. Yeah, I know the feeling for that. So just as I finish up here, do you have any advice for anybody who's just getting started in quilting?
Don't.
And I think I know why you would say that. Because let me guess what you're thinking. You're thinking don't, because you will go down a rabbit's hole and you'll never emerge from it again. Right?
Look, you'll love it, but
Yep.
it'll be your life. Like,
It is.
and it is
Yep.
my life, and it saved my life. So no,
Yep.
it's not really. That was a bit of a joke. It's just, just don't be afraid of a mistake.
Yeah.
There's that saying out there, finished is better than perfect.
Yep.
And people always go, your work is always so perfect. And it's like, that's the photos that you see.
Yeah.
So I try even in my videos to include mistakes.
Yep.
To show people it happens. Like, and I often make mistakes on the easiest task.
That's usually the way, isn't it? And
Because
something, those mistakes you're talking about, that's what attracted me to your YouTube channel, because I call myself the Idiot Quilter on purpose, because my goal is to show people, yeah, I'm not perfect. I made mistakes. This is how I learned. And this is what I did to correct the mistake. And sometimes that's a mistake in itself. But, like that.
But I would recommend this as a hobby, but it is a commitment.
Yep.
And it will take over your life.
And
that's okay.
In a good thing, in a good way.
Yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, I want to I know it's late where you are now. Even if you are a night hawk, it is still late. It's after 11 where you are. So
that's fine. Yeah.
So I'm going to thank you for this. This was great. I will put all of your social links in the show notes below, and if you could send me the business one and that by email, I can add that all in. And
I don't update it very often, and I really need to I've got 6 more lots of fabric here that aren't even on my website. It's
never ends, right? But anyways, I want to thank
you. Too busy actually sewing, like, to do any of my admin.
Sure. Well, I want to thank you, because I know, like, for me, it was early in the morning. For you, it was later at night, but I'm glad we were able to make this work. This is great. And so thank you so much for this. Stay on the line, though. I'm going to stop the recording. But again, thank you so much for this, Kendall. I loved it. It was great.
All right. Thanks.
We'll talk to you again soon.